Hello everyone, it's me. Welcome back to my channel, where we talk about all things medieval. Today we're going to look at a book that's part of the Ballantine Readers Circle, Eleanor of Aquitaine, a life by Alison Weir. Eleanor of Aquitaine is an iconic medieval woman, the famous queen consort of England and France, Duchess of Gascony, Countess of Poitiers, and one of the wealthiest women in medieval Europe. But most importantly, Eleanor was a strong-willed, intelligent, cultured woman who didn't take crap from anyone, including kings. Soon afterwards, she's married to Henry II, Duke of England, whom she has never met before. Their wedding night, where describes how Eleanor uses her position to help Aquitaine prosper, where describes how Eleanor was treated well by the king, though she never forgave him for his treatment of her. Henry has died, and Richard rules as Richard I's, but not for long. He too will be succeeded by his brother, John, who is currently ruling England. Eleanor plays an important role in John's victory at the Battle of Lincoln against his brother, Prince Richard, who sought the throne for himself. Weir's writing is excellent. She brings Eleanor to life as a strong-willed, intelligent woman who navigated a dangerous world with a... Weir's research is top-notch. She doesn't shy away from the salacious details of Eleanor's love affairs, but she never strays from the facts. It's a beautifully written chapter that captures the intensity of their love for each other. Even when the sources are dubious, she is careful to point out where the legends began. Overall, I enjoyed reading this book immensely. Weir's writing is engaging, and her portrayal of Eleanor is sympathetic without being... Also, let me know if you want to see more videos about Eleanor of Aquitaine or other strong medieval women. Thanks for watching. Weir makes good use of the latest research and brings in new discoveries to create a nuanced portrait of a complex woman. If you've read other books about Eleanor, you may be surprised by some of the revelations contained herein. Then the infamous incident at the Siege of Angers occurs. Henry accuses Eleanor of adultery and rebellion and imprisons her for 16 years. That Eleanor of Aquitaine was a force to be reckoned with. She was a shrewd politician who knew how to use her position to her advantage. We don't learn much about her childhood or her relationship with her mother. She was a passionate lover who wasn't afraid to express her desires, and she was a devoted mother and grandmother who was willing to risk everything for her family. Weir writes, though she was never again to hold the title of Queen of England, nor did she ever receive the homage and submission that was traditionally paid to a queen consort. She continued to exercise regal authority. Eleanor acted as regent when John went on Crusade and helped negotiate peace with the French. Although John initially mistreated her, he came to rely on her advice and even gave her valuable gifts. Weir also describes how Eleanor delighted in her grandchildren, particularly the future Henry III. Their sons, Richard and John, both become kings after Henry's death. She is briefly imprisoned by her grandson, King Henry III, after he came of age. However, the chronicler Matthew Paris, writing from a pro-English perspective, claimed that this was because Eleanor had plotted to marry her granddaughter, Princess Joan, to a German prince. After her release, Eleanor moved to Normandy and remained active in politics until her death in 1204. Paris claimed that she died but Weir points out that she could not have been a greater thorn in the side of the English crown. And the last thing she did was attend the coronation of King Philip II of France, who was the grandson of her first husband, Louis VII. But before that, he'd attempted to disinherit them in favor of his new wife, whom he married in secret. Despite Eleanor's protests, he had hoped his marriage to young Constance would produce a legitimate heir. However, she bore him only a stillborn child. The chapter covers their initial difficulties, his jealousy and her rebelliousness, but they reconcile and go on to have 5 children together. Weir portrays Henry as a jealous but devoted husband, a loving father, and a man completely taken by his wife's beauty. She'll also be a queen consort of England and France, but here she is, just a young girl whose father has died and who is about to marry the future King Louis VII of France. Chapter 1 ends with Eleanor's marriage to Louis. This edition was published in 2021 and contains 432 pages with copious endnotes and an index. Let's get started. In the introduction, Weir sets out the purpose of her book. As she saw many biographies of Eleanor written from the perspective of men, Weir wanted to write a book that would show Eleanor's side of the story. To do so, she delved into Eleanor's intimate world using newly discovered letters and other personal documents. The result is a book that shows the reader what Eleanor's life was really like. Chapter 1 begins in 1122. Aquitaine, which Eleanor will one day rule as regent. Chapter 2, the Dauphine consort, deals with Eleanor's relationship with her husband, who treats her more like a sister than a wife, and her role as regent while Louis goes on crusade. It also deals with their failed attempts to produce a male heir, and eventually Eleanor's return to Aquitaine after the birth of her second daughter. While there, she enjoys a passionate affair with her court poet, Guilhem de Pip. Chapter 3, a royal widow, starts with news of Louis's death and Eleanor's hasty return to Poitiers. Chapter 4, Queen of England, takes us to the year 1154. When Henry becomes king and Eleanor is crowned queen. Chapter 5, Captive Queen, covers the period of Eleanor's imprisonment, her illness, her son's attempt to secure her release, and her eventual freedom. Chapter 6. From Captivity to Rebellion, sees Eleanor in Normandy at Christmas 1168, with her son, the future Richard the Lionheart. Chapter 7. The Shadow Queen covers Eleanor's involvement in her youngest son's reign. Chapter 8. Exile and Reconciliation covers Eleanor's final years. The book contains an author's note, a bibliography, and copious endnotes. Now it's time for my standard set of questions. What did I take away from this book? What was my favorite chapter? Probably Chapter 2, The Dauphine Consort, in which Weir ascribes Eleanor's passionate affair with her court poet, Guilhem de Pippin. What could have been better? Perhaps more detail on Eleanor's early life. And finally, would I recommend this book? Absolutely. Not only is it a beautifully written biography, but it also offers new insights into Eleanor's intimate world. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it. It helps my channel tremendously.